Hello and welcome back to the final episode of the Biggar Thinking Lions Series edition with Go.Compare.
Right, mate, so what we're going to do today is we are going to pick a team of the tournament, but it's going to be made up of both Wallabies and Lions players. So I think everyone always starts at 1, so we're going to go the other way, and we're going to start at 15 at fullback.
Okay, so who have we got? What are our options?
Well, basically, you've got Tom Wright or you've got Hugo Keenan.
I have to say, I think Tom Wright, again, grew into the series. I've never seen Tom Wright have as quiet a game in that first test as he did. Burst alive in that second test and just looked the real deal, didn't he? But I think I have to say, it's really difficult to not pick the guy who scored the winning try in that second test to win the series. But not also just from that moment. I just thought his performances, if you looked at compared his performances in the warm-up games, and everyone knows the illness and injury and lateness coming into camp, etc., that went around Hugo Keenan. But I just thought his performance in the first and second test in particular was generally exceptional anyway. Forget about the actual final moment where he scored the try and worked his absolute socks off to get into position. I just think that he probably edges that, even though I thought Tom Wright came into the series in Test 2 and 3 a lot more than he did in Test 1.
So we'll look on the right wing then. Who have you got on the right wing?
So I've gone with Jorgensen because I think he has been, I have to say, it's been not the highest quality back three in terms of there's so much quality in the players that have played. But it just for whatever reason, like how often and how much did we praise James Lowe in the build up to this series and say he's absolutely class, left foot, power, everything about him. But we just probably haven't seen enough of that in the series, have we? And if you were probably rating James Lowe, it'd probably be he'd probably rate himself slightly below par, wouldn't he? Same with Tommy Freeman. The build up to the Six Nations, Saints' run to the Champions Cup final, the warm-up games, he's looked really good. And then sort of test series, you probably think he's just under-delivered by his high standards. And one guy who perhaps nobody was really talking about or put in the superstar mold of a Kinghorn or a Van der Merwe or a James Lowe, Tommy Freeman, was probably Jorgensen. And I thought he was class in the autumn. And I also think he was the best winger in those 6 out of the 6 that have played, or 7 who have played in those 3 test matches. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think that's very fair, mate. I think, 2 tries. He also got 5 clean breaks, and he's the only Wallaby in the top 10 for the whole tour. But you've got to factor in that a lot of those Wallaby lads have played 3 games, as opposed to the Lions lads that might have played 6 or 7. Yeah. No, I thought he was outstanding.
He was good because he gave them an out as well in terms of kick chase. When the try he scored in the first test almost brought him back into the game a little bit. Work rate, produced some, snaffled that try up the interception, didn't he, on in Sydney for the last test, and just probably not, the bar hasn't been set as high as it maybe has been previously in that back 3, but I think you'd be hard. I don't think you could make an argument for anyone being better than him across the test series. Would that be fair?
Hard agree. So on the other wing then, who are you having on the left wing? I'm interested to see who you've picked here.
Again, I feel like I can't pick James Lowe and Tommy Freeman off the back of what I've just said about the right wing, because I thought by their ridiculously high standards that they were probably a little bit below. Obviously, Harry Potter, I don't think he did enough in that first test, and I know he was only on for about 10 minutes or so, wasn't he, in the second test. Andrew Kellaway came in and was solid, but I have to say the guy who came in for that third test in Sydney, Dylan Peach, was excellent, wasn't he, in terms of delivered, the 2 of them between Jorgensen and Peach, they delivered a real sort of, and the conditions probably helped their game in that sense, lots of kick chase, lots of opportunities to be physical and get amongst it in that sense. But I have to say, I thought he took his try brilliantly. He was whacking people, worked his socks off. So I have to say, I think I'd be giving it to him.
You know why I'd give it to Peach?
Go on.
That Archer's celebration.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. It's a mid celebration.
He sort of bottled it a bit though, didn't he?
How good is that celebration?
I love it.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I love Blair Kinghorn. I love James Lowe. I love Tommy Freeman as players. I think they're world class. But all I don't think they could argue that they were better than Jorgensen and Peach across the series, even though Peach only played one game.
Yeah, I do agree. A little bit not disappointed, but in previous Lions tours, back three players have had moments of the tour, like, you think about Colby, like a Colby step, George North pointing and picking people up, Lee Halfpenny dominating. Those back three players do tend to leave a big stamp on a Lions tour, whereas this one I feel like nobody really has done that.
Maybe Keenan. Keenan's maybe the winning try in the series, maybe a good moment. But apart from, I know what you mean. But that's why we put him in. That's why we got him in.
Yeah, that's why we put him in. Outside centre, we'll start 13.
Okay, well, I was going to go, should we do centres as a thing? Can we do centre? Okay, well, because I think there's a nailed-on 12. I think Ikitau plays at 12 in that team of the series. I think he has been ridiculously good in terms of the amount of carries, and he's probably not actually a 12. We probably haven't seen his best moments in terms of that outside break where he likes to sort of stand people up, get on the outside, bring other people into play in that way. But I just thought the way he rolled his sleeves up physically, won so many hard yards, was sort of a bit of the glue in that Wallaby backline, given that they'd lost a really important cog in terms of Noah Loaseo in that 10 position, and they were almost playing with a bit of a rookie in Tom Liner. I just thought he stepped up and was by far the best 12 in those three test matches. Any disagreements there?
No, 100%. He had 41 post-contact meters as well, which gets him in the top 10, which again, like I said before, he's only had 3 appearances this tour. He's competing against back rowers that have played 6 and 7 times, and he's up there. I thought he was absolutely class. Defenders beaten. He did the hard work and he beat defenders. No, hard agree there, mate. I also think the Lions, because they didn't really have a nailed-on 12, we chopped and changed a little bit with injury and stuff like that, which, was Ikitau was really impressive.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And then 13 is the discussion point, I think. And if you compare, who are we going with? You've got Swiley in terms of in that 13, and we all know his talent, his physical attributes, his sort of his aerial skills, which we actually saw nothing of, did we, this tour? In terms of, it was really strange that we didn't see any of that. And then you look at Hugh Jones, for me, and Gary Ringrose was unlucky not to have got himself in the mix. But I have to say, I thought Hugh Jones looked classy on tour, didn't he? In terms of he looked. I tell you what, he looked as well, because everyone knows he's got the outside break and the pace and those things. But I actually thought he looked strong as well, in terms of he looked like he was physically dominating in terms of those carries, especially in the 22. I just thought, played all 3 tests, had to move to the wing, obviously, in the last test early on. But so if you compare the two of them, where can you find the pros and cons? I think Hugh Jones being on the winning team, scoring a try in the second test, I think it wasn't it, to bring him straight back into it. Unlucky not to score one in the first test. Just looked like he had lots of moments, and for all, Joseph Swiley's the talk and the X factor and everything, I think he probably, aside from that test in Melbourne, probably didn't deliver as many big moments as we were hoping.
I think it's tricky, mate. He sets up 2 really good tries that he essentially, that break for Tom Wright's try.
Yeah. That's what I mean. In terms of he's had moments, but I just don't know if he's had enough moments to oust Hugh Jones, who I think has been consistently quite strong, one of the really good performers in that back line for the Lions.
But are you letting Hugh? I think Hugh Jones was brilliant, but I think he was brilliant in the warm-up games as well. So are we waiting? I mean, Soali played every minute of every test, set up 2 quality tries. I think he looks really classy when he looks dangerous when he's got the ball in his hands. I'm just not sure they've found the right position for him. I'm still not 100% sure whether outside centre's for him.
And I think we go back to how good Ikitau is and has been. It's almost like, well, how good, or maybe they've stumbled upon Ikitau at 12 now, given how good he was. But I kind of expected a little bit more from Swiley in terms of like impact throughout the 80 minutes, not just having the odd moment, if that makes sense. And I know he set up some brilliant tries and looked sharp, but I just think Hugh Jones across the test series probably had a little bit more overall in terms of across the whole 80 minutes and bringing, rolling his sleeves up as well and things. So for me, if I was to edge, I'm just edging towards Hugh Jones.
Fly off. I think this is a fair.
Should we not waste any Tom Liner 100%? No, look, I think this is probably one where we can skip over fairly quickly because 2 reasons. Again, comparing compare where Tom Liner is in his career compared to Finn Russell, they're at the exact opposite ends of the scale. Tom Liner, a rookie, I thought he actually showed some really nice moments in the tour, but clearly there's only 110 who can play. I thought he was exceptional. I thought that's the best I've seen Finn Russell play for a concerted period of time without having, big errors in his game. He's just looked confident. He's driven the team. He's in that first 30 minutes, just played almost the perfect 30-minute rugby game in terms of his field position, 50-22s, try assists, goal kicking, etc. And I just think that we can skip over this quite quickly and say that Finn Russell has been absolutely world-class and slots his way into the team quite quickly.
Right, this is one I think we're going to disagree on, Biggs.
I know where you're going on this one.
Who are you thinking for scrum half?
Well, I know who you're thinking. You love Nick White and you love McDermott as well. You've loved what McDermott's done off the bench.
Yeah,
I have to say, just quickly touching on the Wallabies, I thought Nick White was ridiculously good, wasn't he? In his final appearance on Saturday night in Sydney, in the rain, played the conditions, basically made it a scrap with the Lions, wound the Lions up, got the Lions to think about anything other than their actual game and rugby. So I think he was magnificent. I think Tate McDermott has been superb coming off the bench, has added something in every position, but I can't put my 9 as someone who hasn't started a test. You know what I mean? In terms of I can't put Tate McDermott in when he hasn't actually started at 9 in the series. So I think he's been excellent coming off the bench, did a really good job on the wing. And then Jake Gordon, I thought second test, he was excellent. First test, he was, I have to say, a fair bit off it, considering that he was playing with a young 10 and probably needed to step up a little bit more. But for me, none of them will probably... I don't think I can move Jameson Gibson-Park out. I think the test 1 and 2, and test 3, he was nowhere near his best and conditions were tricky, etc. But I thought test 1, he played almost a perfect game without making any errors. And then test 2, sort of, again, similar really to keep a player of Alex Mitchell's quality off for 80 minutes just showed how well he played and how much the Lions coaches and team needed him. So Nick White gets an honourable mention. McDermott gets an honourable mention. But for me, I can't leave Gibson-Park out because of how accurate he was in those first couple of tests.
Can I just make it clear? I think Jameson Gibson-Park is the best.
Don't backtrack now, Rob.
No.
Go all in. Go all in
I
on it.
genuinely think he's on a par with Antoine Dupont on his day. But that's what I'm saying is I don't think he had the performance this tour. I don't think he played to his full potential, and that's why I would go to bat for Nick White, because I thought when he was given his shot, he was 10 out of. You could have given him 10 out of 9, 9.5, 10 out of 10 for that game.
But again, we go back to what we said earlier. If the series was 1-1 in Sydney on Saturday, does Jameson Gibson-Park have as average a game as that? Do you know what I mean? And that's why I think the argument is test 1 and 2 delivered, accurate. Did he make again? If we're comparing Antoine Dupont to Gibson-Park, did he have any moments on that tour where you thought this guy's as good as Antoine Dupont? Probably not. But did he have the control, the accuracy in his game to make Finn Russell look 10% better, to bring his forwards into play? And again, you compare the Wallaby Nines. I don't think any of them if Nick White had played the second test in the same way he played the third test, then potentially, but I don't think you can give it to Nick White off 55, 60 minutes. As good as he was, don't think you can give it to Jake Gordon, because I don't think he's been as good as Gibson-Park, and I don't think you can give it to Tate McDermott, considering he hasn't started at 9. I'm sticking with Jameson Gibson-Park.
Before we move on to the forwards, a quick request that you click that subscribe button, leave us a comment, let us know about our picks, where we've gone right, where we've gone wrong. But make sure you hit subscribe if you like the video for more of the same. So number 8, mate, I think this is a really difficult one as well. I mean,
Yeah.
we had a bit of in one of our earlier series when we were picking our 2013 2025 team. We had a bit of a discussion and chatted about how good Jack Conan was in South Africa. We're both massive fans of Jack Conan, but I don't think he, similar to a lot of players is too. I don't think he's played at his ceiling either, really.
Has Jack Conan set the world alight? No. Did he set the world alight in 2021? No. But did he do a lot of unseen work? And a lot of the time, what you want, whenever I look at a number 8, you've always got to look at how well have 6 and 7 played alongside him. And I'd say 6 and 7 for the Lions played pretty well in terms of Tyburn and Tom Curry in particular. And sometimes you just need Jack Conan to do a lot of the hard, miserable, tough work, and that's what he's been so good. And I'd ask the question: how many games can you think of that Jack Conan has absolutely tore it up for Leinster, Ireland, Lions? And this is, just for the record, this is a positive in what I'm saying. This is an absolute top of the charts how I'm complimenting Jack Conan here, but. Would there be many, Rob?
No, he's one of those lads that just quietly goes about his work.
So that's what I mean in terms of, like, for me, he's always going to give you a 6.5, 7 out of 10. He's going to win you hard carries. He's going to win you the odd meter or two in contact. He's going to make his tackles, line out option, etc., whatever it is. So for me, I can't discount him just because, he has had a relatively quiet series. But the counter argument is, I thought Harry Wilson, who, again, probably pre-tour, probably not many people knew a lot about him, and probably people were thinking, oh, well, if Valentini's fit, he's probably going to come in and, play at 8, or that's who Valentini's been playing, etc. But I just think that he's been brilliant, hasn't he? In terms of as a captain as well, I have to say, I thought the way in which he led the team in Test 2 and Test 3 in particular, from that, just getting overrun in Test 1 was exemplary. I thought he, again, had some big moments, got his team on the front foot, made some good decisions in terms of taking points or scrum or corner, whatever. So for me, it's a real toss-up between that. And it's, again, it's one of those where it's always a little bit more difficult when you finish the series with a Wallabies win and a lot of good Wallaby performances. Do you tend to favour whoever's finished the tour better in that sense? And I have to say, I think Harry Wilson is right thereabouts. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this, Rob.
I love Jack Conan, but the thing why I was so impressed with Harry Wilson was, in those post-match press conferences, the bloke sat there, he's nearly in tears. But
are we talking about Harry Wilson as a captain or as a number 8?
Well, I think you've got to factor that in. Yeah, I think you're factoring in the way he's led those Wallabies. Skelton and rightly so will get a lot of the plaudits for kind of grabbing the tour by the scruff of the neck and turning it round. But Harry Wilson was there throughout. I think he was like the figurehead that Australia needed. Like super passionate, played every minute of the tests. I think it's a real toss-up in terms of how him and Jack Conan played. But I think the fact that he was the captain and the kind of journey we've seen Australia go through from Test 1 to Test 3 makes me think that maybe he should get the nod.
Do you know what? I think you're right. I think there's little between them. They actually play quite similar games, don't they, in terms of lots of hard yards, lots of unseen work. But I think given that who I'm going to pick at 6 and 7, I'll allow Harry Wilson to get in at number 8, just ahead of Jack Conan, because again, there's not much between them at all.
So go on then. 6 and 7.
Do we need to pick 6 and 7 or?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah, both. Again, comparing their first 2 or 3 weeks on tour compared to their last 2 or 3 weeks on tour, and it's as different as you could see. Tyburn almost said as much, didn't he? That he almost didn't think or know if he was going to be picked. And grateful to Andy Farrell for picking him. And by God, has he repaid him with man of the series, wasn't he? By comfortably the best player in the Lions in that Lions Test series, I think. Finn Russell will have pushed him close, but I have to say, I thought Tyburn was exceptional in terms of everything he did, and gets in at number 6. And then on the other side, Tom Curry, again, comparing his first few weeks on tour compared to his last few weeks, just chalk and cheese, powerful, determined, test match animals, the pair of them. And again, I would love to have picked Valentini for that ridiculous 40 minutes. I take it back. I wouldn't have loved to have picked him for that, but you could almost make an argument how good he was for 40 minutes. He gets an honourable mention, but Tyburn, Tom Curry, 6 and 7, with Harry Wilson at 8 is a pretty good back row for me.
Well, I think this is two easy picks as well for the locks.
Well, Maro gets in, doesn't he? Maro gets in. I think he's been excellent. Man of the match in the second test. Line-out line-out's gone generally before Saturday night in Sydney. Went really, really well. Dan Sheehan's been hitting his targets with him. So I just think, Maro, we all know what Maro's qualities are. His work rate, the way he's captained the team as well. So Maro gets in. But
should we give Nick Frost a little shout out as well? Five line-out steals, more than any other player.
Yep.
On the tour. Young bloke. I think he did really well.
He did, and this is. I was going to lead on to my next pick. Really, is that without being overly disrespectful to the guys who played in the Wallaby second row, because I think, like you said, line-out steals, work rate, engine, Williams as well. They're both very good players, but when you compare it to the guy who we're going to pick at number 5, it's just you can't compare. And Will Skelton is for me the man of the series from both sides. He single-handedly dragged the Aussies back into that test series alongside Valentini a little bit, but in terms of he was confrontational, he had power, he had the ability to win contacts, to get amongst the Lions, to not make it. The test 1 was as easy a game as the Lions will ever play internationally. It was, even though there was only 8 points in it, but there was no confrontation, there was no physical battles, which they had to muscle up for. And in test 2, he just brought it alive. And if they could have kept him on for another 10, 15 minutes, and who knows what the second test would have gone like. Test 3, again, ridiculous, bringing an edge to everything. The clean outs, the carries, the tackles, the work rate. Just a ridiculous specimen of a human being. And for me, the player of the combined tour for me is Will Skelton, and that's why he gets in at number 5. And speaking to Ronan O'Gara, not just in commentary and on work days, just outside of it, what a brilliant human being he is. He drags people up to his level, gives people confidence, wins collisions. Just by far for me, up there for one of the best second rows in the world at the minute, along with your Etzebevs, your Maros, guys like that. But I think that's a pretty decent pairing with Skelton and Maro in the row, which makes it easy to know why Sarries was so successful at the time when you have those two as a second row pairing with George Cruz and other guys coming in the mix.
Jim told me it was him.
Well, should we put Jim alongside Maro? Should we give Jim an honorable mention as well? Ridiculous player. Easy. I think he deserves to be waxed lyrical about, but the easiest pick of one of the easiest picks of the team.
Right then, the front row. Shall we start at tight head prop?
Yeah, that's my area of expertise. So let's go down that. Tight head prop. 9 starts in a row for the Lions. Test starts. When you compare the chats around Tyke Furlong at the start of the tour, where people were talking about his form, his fitness, has he still got it? And you look at where now the chat is in terms of Lions series winner, 9 test starts in a row, the influence in which he had on that team. A scrum in terms of the dominance that they had in that second test was pivotal in terms of sort of getting field position and points on the board. I think he gets in my team, although I have to say, I thought Tupou on Saturday night was, again, just ridiculously good. Scrum was, they were buying penalties at the scrum. He was making breaks, monstering people in clean outs and tackles. And again, when I looked at the first test team, we said this previously, but I looked at the first test team the Wallabies picked and the second and third test, and I just think, has Joe Schmidt missed a trick by not picking Tupou? And even if he gives you 30 minutes off the bench or you start him for 30 minutes, where were the Lions where did the Lions get ahead of the other teams like the Brumbies and Waratahs in those games? In the last 20 minutes was through sheer power. Where did they win the first test? It was through sheer power. Soon as Joe Schmidt counteracted that by picking Valetini, Skelton, Tupou, that power didn't look as strong, did it? So I think he deserves an honourable mention. But you can't look past Tyke Furlong, an absolute living legend, one of the best blokes you'll come across, and gets in at tight head.
Loose head.
Interesting, a bit more interest in this because, I mean, again, when you compare them or compare teams, you have to give a mention to James Slipper, who's on 146 caps and still sort of chugging away and just class act on through and through. But again, it goes back to where did the Lions win the series? And they won it for me between a little bit of the difference between 9 and 10 in the first 2 tests and the power game. And the person that I'm picking as loose head prop in the first test was just ridiculous from the start in terms of power, dynamism, like an extra back rower. And then coming off the bench, started winning scrum penalties in that second test. And then in the third test, changed the course of it as well. So just for me, Ellis Genge gets in at number 1. I just think I love Ellis as a bloke. When you play Ellis, you're almost playing with like 4 back rowers. You've got your back rows. You've got Ellis who can scrummage as well, add dynamism, power. And like I said, the reason the Wallabies were probably second best, in particular in that first test, was that they lost the power game, and Ellis Genge gets in at number 1. Although I think, again, Porter, probably pre-tour, you thought Porter would be your starter. But I think Genge has been so good on tour and just stepped up and gets in my team.
I think I've been really impressed with the sort of leadership role that he appears to have taken in that squad. You know, obviously you see him do it in England, but you know, when it comes to the Lions, when you've got all those other leaders there, you've got the other captains, but you can see him pre-game. He's the one that's driving a lot of those conversations in the changing rooms, and he looks to have really sort of thrived in that environment. And he's, you know, he seems to have really hit his straps the past couple of years with England. So I'm really pleased to see him go so well this series.
And he's been the emotional driver, isn't he? Maro's kind of like your decision making and all those bits and pieces, and a bit more elegant in that sense. But I think Alex Genge has been brilliant. And he's also, from what I've heard, he's taken Jack Morgan under his wing as well and made sure that he hasn't been left out of things. And because it's not easy for Jack Morgan being the only Welshman there certainly in those early couple of weeks where he didn't know as many people. So a brilliant person, brilliant player, and gets in at number 1.
And then the last one, hooker. I think this is a fairly easy one as well for me.
World class, isn't he? I know, like I said, the line out didn't function as well as it has done previously. But I think there was one point where he's like 96% Dan Sheehan in his throwing. Forget about his try scoring ability, his work both sides of the ball, his energy. Yeah, just a pretty easy pick. And again, we mentioned having 4 back rowers on the team. If you've got Ellis Genge starting at 1, you've got 5 with Dan Sheehan. He's as quick and as powerful and as mobile as a back row forward who can also throw into a line out and has got serious power at the scrum time. So not far off probably being the best hooker in the world. And I think he gets in. So Genge, Sheehan and Tyke Furlong get in. I think that's a pretty good unit, which has served the Lions well.
Right then, mate, there's our 15. So we had 10 Lions, 5 Wallabies, which surprises me a little bit. I mean, obviously we've gone through it and I've sort of went to bat for the Wallabies maybe a bit more than you have here. But, you know, after that first test, you definitely wouldn't have said that we'd have had 5 Wallabies in a combined 15.
No, and I probably, Rob, that you could probably think maybe 1 or 2 are can count themselves a little bit unlucky that they haven't been, you know, there could have been possibly 6 or 7. And I have to say, probably the Go.Compare Key Decision for me, and the hardest choice when I was comparing like for like was outside centre. I have to say, I absolutely love Suhaili in terms of the power, the athleticism, the X factor that he brings. But I just felt like Hugh Jones just about did enough in terms of a couple of big moments, played all the tests as well as I know Suhaili did as well. But I just felt like, for me, that was the hardest decision. You looked at some of the ones we compared. Skelton goes in easy. Toji goes in easy. Russell goes in easy. That one was probably the toughest one. So that goes down as this week as my Go.Compare Key Decision.
Well, that's a wrap for the season, mate.
It is. It's been fun, hasn't it?
It has. So we need to say a big thanks to Go.Compare for sponsoring this video series.
Yeah, absolutely huge. It's been great, hasn't it? And the good thing when you do something like this, it's kind of like it's difficult to sit on the fence, isn't it? When you're working with, that's what I've loved, and that's why massive thanks to Go.Compare is that you want people to put their necks on the line and say, okay, well, I think this player is better, or this coach is better, this team is better, etc., and give you reasons for it. So it's been great fun. Enjoyed it. Hopefully, there's plenty more to come.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe, because I'm sure there'll be more videos like this. Now Biggs is going to go and enjoy his retirement for a bit. Are you, Biggs, I presume?
I am.
Sit on the beach?
I am turning the phone off, Rob. I am literally, I'm going to be in the sun by the beach, and I am switching off for a few weeks. So we shall catch you in the new season.